There comes a moment in life when you become tired, not because life has become too difficult, but because you have spent too much energy trying to convince others of who you are. You explain your decisions, you explain your silence, you explain your intentions, you explain why you walked away, why you said no, why you changed, why you are no longer available to everyone who once had access to you. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin living your life as if you are standing in front of a courtroom, constantly defending yourself. But ask yourself something. Who are you trying so desperately to convince? And what would happen if you simply stopped? What if you stopped explaining yourself to people who have already decided what they want to believe about you? What if you stopped proving that you are worthy? What if you stopped chasing people who keep walking away? What if you stopped trying to control how others see you? At first, this may feel uncomfortable because you have been trained to believe that being understood is necessary, that being accepted is necessary, that being liked is necessary. But there is another way to live, a quieter way, a stronger way. The moment you understand that your peace does not require everyone's approval, something inside you begins to change. You stop arguing with people who misunderstand you. You stop chasing conversations that have already ended. You stop begging for attention that should have been given freely. You stop performing for people who only value you when you become who they want you to be. And instead, you return to yourself. This is where inner freedom begins. Not when everyone understands you, not when everyone respects you, not when everyone agrees with your choices, but when you no longer need them to. Because the strongest person in the room is not always the loudest. Sometimes it is the person who has nothing left to prove. The person who can walk away without announcing it. The person who can remain silent without feeling weak. The person who can be misunderstood without immediately defending themselves. The person who can lose someone without losing themselves. That is strength. And perhaps this is the lesson you need to hear today. You do not have to explain your entire life to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. You do not have to prove your heart to people who refuse to see it. And you do not have to chase what constantly runs away from you. Your life becomes lighter when you stop carrying the responsibility of controlling everyone else's opinion. Let them think what they think. Let them misunderstand. Let them leave. Let them doubt. You remain grounded. You remain disciplined. You remain connected to what truly matters. Because your freedom begins the moment you realize that you are not here to convince the world that you are enough. You are here to become enough for yourself. There is a certain kind of exhaustion that comes from constantly explaining yourself. It is not the exhaustion of physical work. It is the exhaustion of needing everyone to understand your choices, your intentions, your feelings, and your boundaries. You begin to believe that if you can just find the right words, people will finally see you correctly. But life does not work that way. Some people will misunderstand you even when you explain yourself perfectly. Some will judge you even when your intentions are pure. And some have already created a version of you in their mind that no explanation can change. This is why one of the most powerful forms of inner freedom is learning when to remain silent. You do not owe everyone an explanation. When you make a decision that protects your peace, you do not need to create a long speech defending it. When you choose distance from something that drains you, you do not need everyone to agree with your decision. When you say no, the word itself can be complete. You do not need to add 10 reasons behind it, simply because someone feels entitled to question you. There is a difference between communicating and defending yourself. Communication comes from clarity. Defending yourself constantly comes from the fear that someone will reject you if they do not understand you. And that fear can control your entire life. You begin changing your decisions based on how they will look to other people. You hesitate to walk away because someone might call you selfish. You remain silent when you should speak because someone might dislike you. You continue relationships that have already become unhealthy because you are afraid of what people will say when you leave. Slowly, you stop living according to your own values and start living according to other people's expectations. But you were never meant to live your life as a performance. You do not need to convince everyone that your heart is good. Your actions will reveal that over time. You do not need to prove that you are loyal. The people who truly know you will recognize it. You do not need to prove that you are strong. Strength is often visible in the things you refuse to react to. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is self-respect. It means you have finally understood that not every question deserves an answer, not every accusation deserves a defense, and not every misunderstanding deserves your energy. There will always be people who interpret your silence negatively. Let them. There will always be people who think your boundaries are arrogance. Let them. There will always be people who believe they deserve an explanation for every choice you make. Let them believe it. Your responsibility is not to control their interpretation. Your responsibility is to remain honest with yourself. This does not mean becoming cold or refusing to communicate. It means learning to recognize where communication ends and unnecessary justification begins. Speak when something meaningful needs to be said. Explain when clarity can genuinely improve understanding. But when you realize that you are repeating yourself simply because someone refuses to accept your answer, stop. You do not have to keep knocking on a closed door. There is tremendous peace in allowing people to have their own opinions about you without trying to correct every one of them. Imagine how much energy you would recover if you stopped worrying about proving yourself. Imagine how much lighter your mind would feel if you no longer replayed conversations, wondering whether you should have explained yourself differently. You said what you needed to say. Now let your actions speak. Your life does not become meaningful because everyone understands it. Your life becomes meaningful when you have the courage to live it according to what you know is right. And when you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you begin hearing something much more important than their opinions. You begin hearing your own voice. There is a moment when you realize that you have spent too much of your life trying to prove that you are worthy. Worthy of love, worthy of respect, worthy of attention, worthy of success, worthy of being chosen. You work harder, achieve more, help more people, become more impressive, and still there is a quiet voice inside asking, is it enough? And when your sense of worth depends on the response of others, nothing ever feels completely enough. You achieve something, and you immediately look for recognition. Someone compliments you, and for a moment you feel valuable. Someone ignores you, and suddenly you question yourself. Someone leaves, and you wonder what was wrong with you. Someone criticizes your decision, and you begin doubting everything you believed. This is the trap of external validation. You give other people the authority to decide how you should feel about yourself. But your worth was never supposed to be placed in someone else's hands. You do not become more valuable because someone praises you. You do not become less valuable because someone rejects you. Their opinion may change, their attention may disappear, their feelings may shift, But none of that changes the fundamental value of who you are. The challenge is that many people spend their entire lives performing for approval. They become successful because they want to be admired. They become agreeable because they are afraid of rejection. They tolerate disrespect because they are afraid of losing someone. They constantly compare themselves because they want confirmation that they are doing well. And eventually, they forget what they actually want. They are performing. Real inner strength begins when you stop performing for an audience that was never responsible for your happiness. You do not need to prove that you are intelligent by winning every argument. You do not need to prove that you are strong by never admitting weakness. You do not need to prove that you are successful by displaying everything you accomplish. And you do not need to prove that you deserve love by constantly giving more than you receive. Your value is not a competition. There will always be someone who is more successful, more attractive, more experienced, more talented, or further ahead than you. If your worth depends on comparison, you will never find peace because there will always be another person against whom you can measure yourself. Instead, learn to measure yourself against who you were yesterday. Did you become more disciplined? Did you become more patient? Did you keep your word? Did you remain calm when you could have reacted? Did you continue moving forward when nobody was applauding? These are the victories that build inner strength. The strongest person is not the person who constantly tells the world how valuable they are. It is the person who knows their value so deeply that they no longer need to announce it. When you know who you are, you become less desperate for approval. You can hear criticism without allowing it to destroy you. You can receive praise without becoming dependent on it. You can lose someone's attention without losing your identity. You can walk into a room without needing everyone to notice you. This is freedom. And freedom does not mean believing you are perfect. It means accepting yourself while continuing to grow. You can recognize your weaknesses without hating yourself for having them. You can make mistakes without deciding that you are a failure. You can be rejected without believing that you are unworthy of love. Your mistakes are experiences. Your failures are lessons. Your weaknesses are areas for growth. None of them define your entire existence. So stop trying to prove your worth through endless achievement, constant explanation, or the approval of others. Build your character quietly. Keep your promises to yourself. Become disciplined when nobody is watching. Choose integrity when there is no reward. Continue growing even when nobody notices, because eventually something changes. You stop asking, "Do they think I am enough?" And you begin asking, "Am I living in a way that I respect?" That question changes everything. When you no longer need the world to confirm your worth, you become difficult to manipulate. Praise cannot control you. Rejection cannot destroy you. Comparison cannot consume you. And the opinions of others can exist without becoming the foundation of your identity. You finally understand that your worth does not need to be proven. It needs to be lived. There is a certain exhaustion that comes from chasing what does not naturally move toward you. You chase people's attention, their affection, their approval, their messages, their presence. You chase opportunities, results, recognition, and outcomes. You tell yourself that if you try harder, give more, explain better, or wait longer, perhaps everything will finally become what you want it to be. But sometimes the greatest lesson is not how to hold on tighter. It is learning when to release your grip. When you constantly chase something, you give it power over your peace. You begin checking your phone repeatedly, wondering why someone has not replied. You replay conversations, searching for something you said wrong. You change yourself to become more acceptable. You give more than you receive because you are afraid that if you stop giving, the person will disappear. You keep pursuing an outcome long after your mind and body have told you that it is no longer serving you. This is not always persistence. Sometimes it is attachment disguised as persistence. There is a difference between working towards something with discipline and desperately chasing something because you are afraid of losing it. Discipline allows you to act while remaining grounded. Desperation makes you abandon your peace just to get a particular result. You can work hard without becoming obsessed with the outcome. You can love someone without chasing their attention. You can care without begging. You can make an effort without forcing. You can pursue your goals without allowing them to determine your worth. This is where inner freedom begins. You must understand that not everything you desire is meant to remain in your life. Some people are temporary. Some opportunities are not yours. Some doors close because they are leading you somewhere else. Some situations end because continuing them would require you to become someone you no longer recognize. And sometimes, the most courageous thing you can do is stop chasing. Stopping does not mean giving up on yourself. It means refusing to lose yourself while pursuing something. If someone consistently shows you that they do not value your presence, you do not need to keep proving your value. If an opportunity repeatedly closes despite your genuine effort, you can redirect your energy. If a goal needs to be approached differently, you can adjust without believing that you have failed. Life requires effort, but it does not require desperation. Think about the difference between holding something gently and gripping it with all your strength. When you grip too tightly, you create tension. You become afraid of losing control. You cannot relax. You cannot see clearly. The same happens in life. When you become obsessed with controlling an outcome, you stop experiencing the present moment. You are physically here, but mentally you are somewhere else. Waiting for something to happen, waiting for their message, waiting for their approval, waiting for success, waiting for recognition, waiting for the situation to finally become what you imagined. And while you wait, life continues moving. Your peace should not be postponed until something outside you changes. Learn to give your best and then release the need to control the result. If someone chooses you, appreciate it. If they walk away, let them. If an opportunity arrives, give it your effort. If it disappears, keep moving. If your plan succeeds, remain humble. If it fails, learn your strength is not measured by how tightly you can hold on to something. It is measured by how peacefully you can let go when holding on is costing you your dignity. There is a powerful kind of confidence that comes from knowing you will be okay, even if things do not happen exactly as you wanted. You begin to understand that you can lose a person without losing yourself. You can lose an opportunity without losing your future. You can experience rejection without losing your value. You can fail without losing your direction. This is freedom from attachment. It does not make you careless. It makes you balanced. You still work. You still love. You still dream. You still pursue meaningful goals. But you stop begging life to give you one specific answer. You allow yourself to move with life rather than constantly fighting against it. And when you stop chasing what refuses to stay, something unexpected happens. You create space. Space for better opportunities. Space for healthier relationships. Space for peace. Space for yourself. Because sometimes what you are chasing is not what you truly need. Sometimes what you need is the courage to stop running, stand still, breathe, and realize that your life was never meant to be a constant pursuit of what keeps moving away from you. Your peace is worth more than any person, outcome, or approval you have to desperately chase. There is a quiet kind of strength that develops when you stop needing everyone to understand you. For most of your life, you may have believed that being understood was necessary for peace. When someone misunderstood your intentions, you felt the need to explain. When someone judged your choices, you wanted to correct them. When someone created a false story about you, you wanted to prove the truth. But eventually, you discover something important. You cannot control the story people create about you. Some people will misunderstand you, no matter how clearly you speak. Some will judge you based on a single moment. Some will remember your mistakes while forgetting everything you did right. Some will interpret your silence as arrogance, your confidence as pride, your boundaries as selfishness, and your distance as weakness. And if you spend your life correcting every misunderstanding, you will spend your life exhausted. Inner freedom begins when you understand that not every opinion requires your response. This does not mean you should become careless about how you treat people. It does not mean you should ignore genuine feedback or refuse to admit when you are wrong. It means you learn to separate truth from perception. If you make a mistake, correct it. If you hurt someone, take responsibility. If clarification is necessary, communicate. But when you have acted with honesty and someone still chooses to misunderstand you, allow them to have their opinion. You do not need to chase them with explanations. There is great power in knowing your own intentions. When you know why you made a decision, you do not need everyone to approve of it. When your conscience is clear, you can tolerate someone else's disagreement. When you understand your own values, you become less dependent on external interpretation. This is difficult because the human mind naturally wants acceptance. We want to belong. We want to be recognized. We want people to see the good in us. But the desire to be understood can become a prison when it becomes more important than being authentic. You start editing yourself. You say what people want to hear. You hide what you believe. You stay where you no longer belong. You apologize for having boundaries. You explain every decision because you fear being judged. And slowly, you trade your authenticity for approval. But what is the value of being understood by everyone if you have to become someone else to achieve it? There will be people who appreciate you and people who do not. There will be people who understand your silence and people who criticize it. There will be people who respect your boundaries and people who become angry because they can no longer control your access to them. Let them choose their interpretation. Your responsibility is to choose your behavior. You cannot control what someone thinks about you, but you can control how you live. You can remain respectful without becoming submissive. You can remain kind without becoming available to everyone. You can remain silent without becoming bitter. You can walk away without creating hatred. You can disagree without creating conflict. This is emotional maturity. A mature person does not need to win every perception. They understand that sometimes the truth does not need a defense. Time reveals what words cannot. Your consistency reveals your character. Your actions reveal your intentions. Your life becomes the explanation. Think about how much energy you would save if you stopped trying to correct every person who misunderstands you. You would have more energy for your goals, your relationships, your growth, your health, and your inner peace. You would stop replaying conversations in your mind. You would stop wondering, What do they think about me? You would stop creating imaginary arguments where you try to prove your innocence. Instead, you would return to the present moment. You would breathe, you would continue. And perhaps that is one of the greatest forms of freedom, allowing someone to misunderstand you without allowing their misunderstanding to change who you are. You do not need to convince everyone that you are a good person. Live with integrity. You do not need to convince everyone that your decision is correct. Stand by your values. You do not need to convince everyone that you have changed. Let your behavior demonstrate it. At some point, you must become comfortable with the possibility that someone may never understand your side. And that is okay. Your peace cannot depend on universal understanding. Your identity cannot depend on everyone's approval. Your path cannot require everyone's permission. When you accept this, you become lighter. You stop fighting invisible battles. You stop explaining your existence. You stop chasing acceptance. And you begin living with a deeper confidence. The confidence of someone who knows that being misunderstood is sometimes the price of remaining true to yourself. There comes a point in life when you must decide what matters more, being accepted by everyone or remaining at peace with yourself. Many people spend years choosing approval. They change their behavior to fit expectations, hide their true feelings to avoid conflict, and make decisions based on how those decisions will look to others. They become so focused on being liked that they forget to ask the most important question. Am I living a life that I can respect? External approval can feel powerful because it gives you temporary comfort. Someone praises you and you feel valuable. Someone agrees with you and you feel secure. Someone chooses you and you feel important. But this comfort is fragile because it depends on something outside your control. The moment someone criticizes you, rejects you, ignores you, or disagrees with you, your peace begins to disappear. If your peace depends on other people's approval, then other people control your emotional state. This is why inner peace must become more important than external validation. Choosing peace does not mean becoming selfish. It does not mean ignoring everyone or refusing to care about their feelings. It means understanding that caring for others should not require abandoning yourself. You can respect someone and still disagree with them. You can love someone and still establish boundaries. You can listen to advice without allowing it to control your decisions. You can appreciate someone's opinion without making their opinion your identity. This is emotional independence, and emotional independence is one of the most valuable forms of freedom. When you begin choosing peace, you stop entering every argument. You realize that not every disagreement needs to become a battle. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Sometimes the strongest response is simply to remain calm and continue walking. You begin protecting your attention. You become more selective about what you allow into your mind. You stop consuming every opinion about yourself. You stop comparing your journey to everyone else's journey. You stop allowing someone else's success to make you feel like a failure. You understand that peace requires discipline. You must discipline your thoughts. You must discipline your reactions. You must discipline your desire for approval, because the world will constantly invite you to prove yourself. Someone will question your decision. Someone will doubt your ability. Someone will criticize your appearance. Someone will compare you with another person. Someone will tell you that you should be further ahead. If you allow every opinion to enter your mind and determine your emotional state, you will never experience stability. But when you know what you value, the noise becomes quieter. You can hear criticism without becoming criticism. You can hear rejection without becoming rejected. You can hear doubt without doubting yourself. This is the difference between confidence and approval. Approval says, "Tell me I am enough." Inner confidence says, "I know I am still growing, and I do not need your permission to continue." That mindset changes the way you walk through life. You stop trying to impress people who are not paying attention to your journey. You stop explaining your goals to people who have no intention of supporting them. You stop changing your personality simply because someone prefers another version of you. You become more comfortable being yourself. And when you become comfortable with yourself, you no longer need to force connections. You no longer need to chase attention. You no longer need to prove that you deserve a place in someone's life. You can allow people to come and go without allowing their presence or absence to determine your value. This is not emotional detachment from life. It is emotional balance. You still care, you still love, you still connect, but you no longer lose yourself in the process. You understand that peace is not found by controlling everyone around you. Peace is found by controlling what you allow to control you. You cannot control what people say. You cannot control how they interpret your actions. You cannot control whether they choose you. You cannot control whether they approve of your path. But you can control your response. You can choose dignity instead of desperation, silence instead of unnecessary conflict, patience instead of impulsive reaction, self-respect instead of approval. And every time you make that choice, you become stronger. Eventually, you realize that a peaceful life is not a life where everyone agrees with you. It is a life where you no longer need everyone to agree with you. You can stand alone without feeling abandoned. You can be different without feeling ashamed. You can walk away without needing revenge. You can remain silent without needing to be understood. You can continue your journey without waiting for applause. That is inner freedom. The world may never give you constant approval, but you can give yourself something far more valuable: the permission to live honestly, grow quietly, protect your peace, and move forward without asking everyone else to validate the life you have chosen.